Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review post-match reaction video after a quite horrendous evening over in Limassol. Tonight, Rangers falling to a 2-1 defeat to Aris in the Europa League match day 2. Dreadful evening for Stephen Davis and Rangers players this evening over there. There's loads of comments coming in. First of all, apologies about the lateness coming on the video, folks. We were in the press conference. We're waiting for Stephen Davis. Chris was busy getting all the content as well, getting it to you guys on the website. Lots of fallout from this game. Blue-eyed boy says, "Come on, Rangers Review, where are you?" I'm reading that out in the sort of the Delia Smith voice in my head there, buddy. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Let's get to it then, lads. Chris, you're at the Alphamega Stadium. It was dreadful pretty much from start to finish.
I think dreadful sums it up, Derek. There's many words we could use now. Dreadful, abject, appalling. Some even ones that you might have to bleep out in terms of video as well. You can use whatever one you like. All of them are applicable to Rangers tonight. It was an appalling showing. Really, not what we expected. Not the reaction that was required. Steve Davis comes out and he's held his hands up in the press conference that I've just been in, and he's called for unity and he's taken a bit of responsibility. But for me, that performance lies solely at the feet of the Rangers squad tonight. Now, it was a chance to show a reaction, to try and right some of the wrongs, and it was just nowhere near good enough, nowhere near acceptable. So no, it's not been a good night, and the fans, as I've had a quick look at some of the reaction, not online, or the reaction we're getting in the comments tonight, speak volumes for how unhappy people are. I can only put my thoughts with the Rangers fans that have travelled out here and spent good money on that, because they've certainly not been repaid by that performance.
Yeah, absolutely. The word that came to my mind was gutless, and Michael Climie is stolen my thunder here. He raises the point, guys. That was as gutless a performance as I can remember from a Rangers team. No fight, no passion, no effort. Totally gutless. I feel a bit sorry for Beale as the players' true colours showed tonight. Joshua, pick the bones out of that one. Only pass marks for me. Jack Butland, Abdallah Sima, Jan McCausland that came on, I thought looked bright. That aside, everyone else was... I'm trying to pick my words carefully here, but they should not be playing at the weekend, put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that performance gives you anything to hold on to whatsoever. I think it just provides so many more questions in the weekend. Chris is spot on for me. Stephen Davis is a manager, but I don't think he takes much responsibility for that tonight. I thought some of Rangers' approach, their intention to go quite direct, didn't really didn't lend itself to having control of the game. But there was a game, I think the Motherwell game wasn't a couple of weeks ago, where there was a similar game where Rangers just gave the ball away when there's no pressure on them. And when you have another performance like they did tonight, I think you just make the task so much more difficult for yourself. How many chances? I think it was the second goal comes after Rangers lose the ball cheaply. A number of other moments where chances just arrive from Rangers giving the ball away unopposed. And all the talk before was about reaction. James Tavernier used phrases like that in his press conference the day leading into this game. But I think that's a bit of a new low. And in a start to the season that's all the words Chris has rhymed off there. A start to the season that's been as bad as it has been. That's a new low for Rangers tonight, because aside from the fact that they had injuries, aside from the fact that they're in a difficult situation, those group of players could have put on so much better of a showing tonight, and there's just absolutely nothing to hold on to apart from Sima doing his best with his back to goal at points and Butland bailing Rangers out a couple of times, because Aris were energetic and they were lively, but that's not a great football inside Derek, is it? And Rangers were just absolutely abject tonight, really, for the whole 90 minutes.
Yeah, Andrew McDonald raised the point earlier. He says, "What are you saying about right now, Derek?" Yeah, I hold my hands
up. To be fair,
up.
Derek, I don't think you said you wanted him to play. I just think you highlighted the fact.
No, there's no other options, pretty much.
No other options, yeah.
But I'd rather have young McCausland as opposed to him who came on for Scott Wright, who was. He wasn't the only one, of course, but he was very, very poor. Still, who we had on the Cypriot podcaster, is messaged in. He says, I didn't expect that from Rangers. They looked petrified when Aris were on the counter and hardly strung 3 or 4 passes together in the opponent's half. He did message me earlier on still. He said that Aris don't have a recognised centre forward, and the 2 centre-backs were gettable, but Rangers rarely put them under any sort of pressure, Chris, apart from Seema's goal. I know the Dessers goal got ruled out for offside. It wasn't much in it, you've got to say. That aside, he was, as Cyril Dessers self, absolutely woeful up front. What was the fan reaction like? Because I know they get booed at half-time, didn't they? What was the reaction like at full-time?
Unsurprisingly, not complimentary. And as I said earlier on, I can fully understand. Guys have spent hard-earned money coming out here. It's a long way. They've put their time, their money, and their effort into come and watch the side. They're due far, far better than that. So the fans stayed behind at the end. The players kind of went over to them at the end, and some kind of held their hands up and that type of thing. But we've seen all these kind of empty gestures before now. We've seen players going over and applauding the fans and putting hands up and kissing the badge, and it's all ultimately, it means absolutely nothing, because the 90 minutes beforehand is where it really mattered. They're doing press conferences and doing interviews. They're all great. They're great for us, but the fans just want to see people doing their talking on the pitch. So often this season, Rangers have failed to do that, failed to do it again tonight. And as attention's now turned to St Mirren, how many of these players could you make a case for starting? How many players should be in the team over the next few weeks? I know we've spoken a lot about the options. Rangers don't have a lot of options, but Stephen Davis is going to need to find some way of cajoling a performance and a result, because if Rangers don't win on Sunday, I think we're all fairly realistic about the Premiership title and where it's heading. If they don't win on Sunday, it's completely finished, and Rangers are already out of the title race 12 months after they were out of the title race at this stage of the season under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. You can't keep putting yourself in that position. And the point I made in my analysis piece, it's on the website, it's the same players that are involved time after time. How many Rangers managers have this group of players now seen off the premises? Tav has seen off more than his fair share.
Yeah.
Like Goldson.
He's manager number 8, Chris, I think.
Goldson, Barisic, Ryan Jack. There's too many of them. Now, the new guys that have come in, Jack Butland aside, gets huge pass marks. Fans love him, rightly so. Great signing. Seema, there's wee things there. The rest of them, you mentioned Cyril Dessers there, Derek, the rest of them are nowhere near good enough. And you're now combining that with the older guard and the stalwarts of the side, who are nowhere near at the level that they were during 55 and have been at various other times in their Rangers careers. So there's a real problem there. And no matter who the new manager is, whether it's Stephen Davis, whether it's Kevin Muscat, doesn't matter who it is, there's real problems there in terms of the levels that this squad are actually able of achieving.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything that you said there. This is an interesting point. Best of British says message in, watching Rangers since 1969, and he says this must be the worst. We've had some poor ones, but they were honest, tried, and showed character. This lot are salary thieves. He says they just do not care. So making his feelings known there. The back four needs revamp, Joshua. I think patience has worn out for the three at the back, Barisic, Goldson and Tavernier. Chris says, thanks very much for your service. Time to move on. I think we need a whole revamp in terms of the back line. Midfield isn't much better, I've got to say. I know we're missing a few players in there. Nico Raskin aside, the rest can go. And in the forward areas, I think Abdallah Seema is the only player that you've got. You're optimistic that can cause a bit of damage to opposition defences, and he is a lone player. So this is a pivotal couple of days for Rangers, because, as Chris says, drop points at St Mirren, it's game over for the league. Is that where we're at this moment in time?
Well, I think the hope would have been, Derek, that you put someone in like Stephen Davis, who obviously commands respect, who obviously, sorry, it's my TV going off in the background, I forgot to switch it off, who commands respect, and you hope, okay, maybe he buys you a bit of time. You hope that the players are able to put in some respectable performances or bounce back. And, you know, I said after that the confidence looks on the floor, and I think it does. I don't think that's an excuse, but again, I tweeted after as well, it looks like a rebuild that needs rebuilt.
That's a few comments coming in saying that. Ronnie's saying that there.
Listen, we're gonna have content kind of looking in a bit more detail on Saturday. We're gonna have a deep dive a deep dive piece looking at some of the candidates and some of their credentials for the Rangers managerial job. But this, for me, the whole situation is the perfect example of why sporting directorship, the director of footballship, whatever you want to call it, is so important, because you've now got this squad that very much looks like it's built in a certain manager's image, and it's not that there's not going to be certain players that have some redeeming factors, although it doesn't look like that after tonight. But you're in a position where we are earlier than last season. The St Mirren game that we're talking about with you last season, it's earlier than last season, and we're talking about the potential if Rangers don't win that game against St Mirren, who are in a good run of form themselves, and certainly be confident after watching that tonight. And given that there's been no reaction from that squad of players tonight, I don't think you can. I don't know what you base your confidence on that they'll bounce back if you do think that. We're in a position where we're speaking about that potential. Is the league going to be over, and it's not even the middle of October, let alone the end. So it's for I think for a club of Rangers expectations, it's a kind of which is a horrific position to be in. And again, when you're looking at potential managers, I guess the hope would have been that Dave is able to buy some time to make the right appointment, not the quick one. But very quickly, based on that performance tonight, Derek, against an Aris side who, yes, they've earned their place in the Europa League, but they're a team that Rangers would, I think, harbour ambitions of beating on a normal day. If you're not able to bounce back there, then spare a few players coming back in. What gives you that confidence that Rangers are going to bounce back at the weekend? And then you leave yourself in a really precarious position, not only for the league season, but also for a new manager to come into. So very quickly, this is kind of spiraled totally out of control, and you're now 2.5 months into a season, and you're speaking about the very reality of the league being over.
St Mirren will fancy their chances. They'll be licking their lips for the weekend. Here is where I am on it. And I mean, I get pelters the other day there on Sunday when I mentioned certain managers taking over on a caretaker basis, Chris. Rangers, for me, need an old school organiser, a disciplinarian, someone that can come in and sort that mess out. I mentioned Neil Warnock before. He phone him right now, he'd be up tomorrow and he'd start work at Ibrox. That might be radical and a bit reactionary after tonight's game, but I have very little confidence going in at the weekend. Rangers need a new manager in pronto.
Again, that was one of the points that I made in an analysis piece on the website. And if you are one of the prospective managers, if you've been linked with the job, if you've been interviewed, if you fancy that job, and you sit down and you tune in, that's going to ruin your Thursday night, just like it's ruined the Thursday nights of thousands and thousands of Rangers fans, because that should highlight just how big a job the next manager has on his hands. So Steve Davis came in and he held his hands up and said it was on me, and he called for unity. And he said that there was things he believed that the season can be turned around. Ultimately, it's not going to be Steve Davis's job to do that, because he's not going to be the Rangers manager going forward. He's been put in a thankless position that's probably now even worse than we thought it was, because we'll just assumed that Rangers would have enough to get through this tie. Nowhere near enough in the end to get through it. You would not back them to go to St Mirren and get a result at the weekend.
No chance.
And it leaves the new manager, whoever that is, whenever they come in, and probably sometime next week, it leaves them with just a massive job on their hands to try and cajole something out of a group of players that's underperforming, that's low in confidence, and ultimately that's low in quality.
Yeah, lots of people agreed with me with my Warnock suggestion, Josh. I can see you shaking your head at that. But listen, I think Rangers needs an old school manager in there. I think it's got to that stage where I need someone in there to cajole, just to shake things up, make big calls, big decisions, dropping players that are in there that have. I think that the Rangers' careers are well and truly up. We just need someone in there just to change things. We're at desperation stage at the moment.
Do you think you take that tonight as, I don't know, as an old school, or I don't know, as an old school manager gonna?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. It needs
I think you look at that. There's obviously, as Chris says, there's so much wrong with that tonight. But I think one of the predominant issues, and I don't think this is a reflection on Stephen Davis and the staff, because they've been in there about 20 seconds. But Rangers get into the final third, and I mean, we've literally seen this pattern when Rangers go behind. I remember the second half of Rangers game against Malmo, where there was a heavy emphasis on crossing against a deep block that didn't work. We've seen that pattern consistently for a number of years now. You only change that, I think, by firstly bringing in new players in that position, but also I think having a team that's going to be able to have different types of solutions in the final third. And you look at, if you're looking at some of the names that are linked or in the discussion, like Knutson or Muscat, team managers that rely a lot on players being able to create situations out wide and provide a wide threat. Rangers don't have a squad that's built for that. So I just think it's a really difficult situation because obviously in light of tonight, because of how bad things seem. But I think matching a manager up with that, as we're going to try and explore in this piece over the weekend, it's not going to be an easy task, is it?
Yeah, right. We're going to say goodbye to Chris because he's got a taxi to get from the stadium. Chris, thanks for joining us once again, and safe travels home tomorrow.
Thanks very much. I'm going back to the hotel for a beer to drown my sorrows, to think of a follow-up for Saturday, and we'll reconvene at St Mirren Park on Sunday. Thanks for your time, boys.
Top man. Cheers, Chris.
Thanks, guys.
Adios.
Cheers.
There's Chris away, folks. Thank you very much for his efforts tonight in experiencing that debacle that unfolded tonight. Right, lots of comments coming in with regards to the situation. Ian Thompson going along with my way of thinking. He says they need a Neil Warnock. He wants the job. 2-stage process now. Neil first, then see where we go from here. And Derek H gets in touch. Evening, Derek. We need a strong guy who motivates and carries himself with a bit of fear in the players. Listen, Rangers need someone in there, a guy that holds himself with gravitas, someone that does spark a bit of fear in the players, someone not afraid to make big decisions in that team because it needs drastic action. I'm thinking about the team for Sunday, Joshua. I've just mentioned that the whole back four could be replaced. I'm not entirely sure what sort of options Rangers have at their disposal. Sam Lammer's coming in for criticism as well. I've seen the comment that came in here from Alan Kelly saying, how's Lammer still getting a game? He was atrocious as well tonight. I was surprised he started, in all honesty. Do Rangers have options, do you think, to make radical changes on Sunday? Do you think Stephen Davis will do that or put his faith in the players to try and make amends?
I think you've kind of summed it up there, that I guess apart from if a couple of players come back from injury, who do you change? Who do you bring on? Because you looked at the state of the bench tonight. You've got Dujon Sterling there, John Suter.
I think you have a chance, Dujon. I'm going to say that. I think he should start on Sunday.
Yeah, and then you've got, McCausland. I thought but one thing McCausland came on and did was he got the ball out wide, and instead of whipping in a mindless cross, and I know Rangers did score from one cross, but that was one cross from a lot of crosses. He took the ball and he committed the man, and he tried to play a ball down the side that actually created one of the best attacking moments I think Rangers had. And it was a rare moment where, again, instead of just, I think, taking the option that would have been comfortable for the Aris defence, he created a better opportunity. I think Besser's crossing, it was a cutback, was just wasn't converted. So I think you do make changes because you then obviously go into the international break as well. But the question is, who do you bring in, Derek? Because there's an argument that although you want to put some of the young boys in there as well, how many are ready for that?
I'd play them. I honestly think, I understand your point there, but what the players, the trusted professionals that are taken to the pitch right now are just simply not delivering anywhere near the standards that are expected at this moment in time. I think that you play the young players, there's an element of they're fearless. They'll be out there. They'll be wanting to bust a gut for the club, and I think that might just be a better option in a number of positions. Just this one, Ali for the telly says, any idea how bad Yilmaz's injury is? If he's fit enough on Sunday, he comes back in, I think, Joshua. But it remains to be seen how bad that injury is.
It does, yeah, and obviously part of the issue with Ridvan has just been, I think, as is pretty well documented, that he's not been able to stay consistently fit, and that obviously goes back to last week when he had that really promising game against Livingston, and I think you see he does give you some different options out wide, but then he pulls up after what was a halftime in the game against Aberdeen at the weekend, and obviously wasn't in the European squad. So fingers crossed that maybe he's fit and you can put him in there alongside Roof as well, but. Yeah, I guess just to go back to the point, and we should mention that The article will have Stevie Clifford with some should we say, frustrated thoughts with his weekly column on the website tomorrow. We'll have a deep dive into some of the managerial candidates, some of their styles of play. So you can subscribe as is going along the ticker there. £18 for a year. Just I think the link will be in the description as well if you want to support our work and get access to all that we do on the website. But what point was I making there, Derek? I've went off track. The candidates.
Yeah.
The candidates, yeah, sorry. Who I think there was two options really you had for Rangers. Either you said, right, this next 3 months we're going to entrust Davies, and listen, he might maybe turn something around against St Mirren and manages to get a bit of a feel-good factor. But I think what tonight has showed is he might be able to have a limited impact when it comes to trying to pick these players up because of the situation that they've played themselves into this season where they've lost now. What's that? I think if you include the PSV games, that the 5th defeat in all competitions already. After maybe you've had 3 in the league, obviously the heavy one away from home.
Right, yeah, you're right.
Then tonight as well. So in an ideal world, I think if you're the Rangers board, you had Davies pick things up, and then that gave you more time to make the right appointment, gave you more time to, I guess what I keep banging on about, appoint a director of football. In an ideal world, you have him before you have a manager. But if Rangers don't get a good result against St Mirren on Sunday, then you're starting to look at the fact that it's probably not a position you want to keep Stephen Davies in.
No.
So then you probably have to. You can't appoint a second interim manager. And
this is the point I was going to say. I want experienced caretakers that are well versed in taking over teams in crisis, that can work for a few weeks, months, whatever it may be, that can come in and just steady the ship. Hence my Warnock suggestion that there will be other experienced managers out there. I just worry that we're just going to let this season unravel while we go and try and get a permanent manager in it. And like you say, Josh, I think by Sunday the league could be well and truly over. So I'm just concerned. I think it's important Rangers get the next managerial appointment right. There's no doubt about it. But there is experienced campaigners out there that can take over on an interim basis. So
and Davies, I know post match, I guess what can he say? Is he going to come out? Is he going to come out just now and berate? It's not a position where it's not. As he said in his press conferences, he's not in this position because things are going well. And you can point to maybe certain things in the approach tonight, but I just think that pattern of players going back into these patterns when things get tough in games and swinging in crosses from out wide and the basics that weren't there tonight. So it's a really difficult position to be in. It's a really difficult position to be in, and what we said coming into this game, I guess, is that the only way you can get out of that is perhaps by playing your way out of that. But tonight they weren't able to do that. It looked like a difficult pitch, and you get off to the worst possible start, and you give yourself a difficult situation to play out of. But St Mirren away at the weekend is going to be a really difficult game as well. You're looking for players to step up and get you out of it and provide the moment to get you out of it. But you don't have confidence in any player at the moment to do that, do you? Apart from Sima, I think Sima obviously has his I think some drawbacks at points, and there was a moment in the second half where he kind of trips over himself. But I think he gave you direction. I think the passes he was getting from Barisic up the line. It must be one of the most difficult passes in football when you've got someone right up your backside and you have to try and turn them. But he did on a few occasions, and he was able to give you that box threat from wide on the left. And I thought you could see that I thought you could see how it's no coincidence that I think he gives you the goal today and the goal against Aberdeen when it looks like the team have no hope, and he kept going, and you could see from the celebration of either goal that he was kind of all in that moment. But that's quite isolated. I don't think you looked at anyone else in those attacking positions tonight and thought they're going to get something. They're going to get something out of that. I'd agree with you that someone like McCausland would be inclined to give him an opportunity at the weekend, not only because there's limited options.
Right, suspended for a start, so a chance for him.
Yeah, so I'd be inclined to give him a start at the weekend and a few more players, because I think at this stage, what have you got to lose?
Yeah. What sort of strikes me, and this point worries me from Ryan Stewart. He said, I'm not even angry at that. That's the worst part. It's apathy now. This new manager will do well to get this lot to second. That is a concern that a lot of supporters now are well, I've said it before that they're not going to Ibrox. They're leaving Ibrox mega early, Joshua, and Rangers are just simply not enjoyable anymore. And not just that, the players are. It's hard to like them, if you know what I mean. There's young fans going along, even supporters that have been for many years. It's very hard to like this squad of players.
People aren't gonna. Yeah, obviously, if they're not winning trophies, that's the kind of key drawback. But I know what you mean. I think this is what struck me. Michael Beale's last press conference, he made a comment about the fans booing at halftime, and in isolation in one particular game, maybe that's fair, but it's the context around that. It's the fact that, again, we were speaking about this in October. We spoke about this last October about it being a potentially written off season. And although a number of players have come in, and it's almost as if the top half of the pitch has been refreshed and the bottom half, aside from Jack Butland, hasn't. But the players that have come in have quickly not made themselves popular, and they haven't had a start to again, I guess, buy them that time. And then the players obviously at the back end of the pitch, and your likes of Lundstrom, Tavernier, Goldson, Barisic, they've been associated with a number of so many disappointments before, and in recent seasons that combines to kind of make a very unhappy cocktail. So I didn't have too. We spoke before the game. I didn't have too much confidence that Rangers would be able to put in a fantastic performance, but I thought you might see a more get a fantastic result, but I thought you might see a more cohesive performance, if not at least to because they had the new manager in there and to try and do right by him. But for whatever reason, and I'm sure those players will be absolutely hurting as well, but for whatever reason, it's not happened. And I think, as Chris said, if you've travelled out there all that way, if you've and you do that so frequently, you spend all your hard-earned money doing that. That's why the atmosphere in the last few weeks has been as it has been, because not only was this a new season, but there was a lot of hope going into this new season. And very quickly, it's mid-October, early October, and there's not even a kind of sliver of hope wherever you look.
Yeah, thank you to Billy K for donating to the channel. He's not got a comment in there. A comment from Rain578. He's donated £5. Thank you very much, buddy. Get Tav out there, he says. So not happy with the captain. I've seen a lot of names being suggested as experienced caretakers. James Skeen says Big Ek could have come in and he's done it before. Listen, I can't remember. What was his last job? The Scotland job, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he's been in football since then. Stephen Dixon also suggests Big Ek. Overland and Borders raising the point. Experienced manager to come in, fix the team and club as best he can, then step into a director of football role once they select a long-term manager to work with. And just on, Sonny says, he says, even the chat room chicken has had enough tonight. If you don't know what we're talking about, folks, watch the Beale departure video on Sunday for that. The chicken not in the chat room this evening. Stevie not on tonight. But listen, it's a depressing pod once again. There's not been many enjoyable ones this season, Joshua, in terms of waxing lyrical and about Rangers' style of play and entertaining football. It really has been a pretty woeful start to the campaign. It continues on the continent and as well. Incidentally, I think Aris, they rattled 6 goals past Bati Borisov and then 6 past Slovan Bratislava at home. So they are a decent side. However, it was a manner Rangers fell to their defeat tonight that really cuts deep and leaves people concerned for the immediate future. Stephen Smith with the point, he says, at this rate, lucky to finish second in the league, and I'm not joking. Listen, I can't disagree much with that, Stephen. It was a pretty dreadful evening for Rangers in the Europa League tonight. Now, it's by not mean over in that competition. Rangers will take on Sparta Prague away from home in 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. There's still plenty to play for in that competition. Let's just hope they've got an experienced manager at the helm for that before that match comes around. But of course, we've got the big one in Paisley on Sunday. Rangers cannot afford to drop any points. However, we go into that game lacking in confidence and optimism with this group of players. I think many of them have ran their race, Josh. I think we've been saying that for the last year or so now for many of them. So it remains to be seen what side will take to the field on Sunday. We'll discuss it more in detail tomorrow. I'll be on with Adam Thornton tomorrow, folks. So we hope you can join us for that. And Joshua will be on as well, won't you?
Yeah, great. Get to relive it again. Don't know what we're going to talk about, but yeah, look forward to it, kind of, nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, folks, thanks very much for joining in with the chat this evening. It's much appreciated. As I mentioned earlier on, the Stephen Davis press conference is on the YouTube channel if you want to go and have a watch of that. And we'll be back tomorrow at 9:30. We hope you can join us for the morning briefing. Until then, we'll speak to you later on. Good night for now.